We're not going to turn around as soon as they leave and call HR and say, hey, Joe Smith was just in here and he up some kid at the school and gave him a bloody nose. No, we don't do that.
So in my case, my brother's case, if no one heard it and no one saw it and the kid didn't report it, it should be okay.
There's no report.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like if somebody breaks in your house and steals your weed, you're not going to report. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In my 8 years in this position, I've never had somebody terminated for a situation like you're describing.
So this is not new. I mean, I've had teachers, physical altercations with kids, sexual altercations with kids, verbal altercations with kids, violating the professional standards rules in other ways that don't involve kids, and it's happens. I mean,
Our investigation into teachers' union offices across America brings us to Ohio. First stop, Akron, where our undercover journalist tells a union official a tale of physical and racial abuse that left the student bloodied. The union official's reaction? A familiar refrain. They say they have no obligation to report the incident and that it is likely that the teacher will escape any repercussions from the assault.
I've got a bit of a sensitive situation.
What?
A bit of a sensitive situation, I believe. My partner is an educator.
Okay.
And he might have lost his temper with a student.
This is Bill Siegferth. He was the president of the Akron Education Association for 27 years. He is now a consultant to the union.
I believe he was having trouble with this student for quite some time. And he may have held him after class one day to speak to him. And he just, he might have lost his temper a little bit.
Okay.
I think the kid's nose might have been bloodied, and
that bad, huh?
Yeah, and
was it a punch?
I think it was like one of those open hand deals where the kid might have moved his head and he got the nose on accident.
Yeah. I have an obligation to him as a union rep. I'm not going to turn around and call the schools and call CSB and say, hey, this guy, I have reason to believe he abused a kid. See, if that's a concern, I don't even know if you guys ever thought of that, but that's not going to happen.
It's definitely a concern.
But from here, that would not be the case.
So if he came in and told you the story about smacking the kid and getting his nose bloodied and cleaning him up and sending him home saying, keep your mouth shut, you would not report that.
Oh, no.
That's right. Even after hearing about how the union member bloodied a student, Siegferth says he will not, quote, turn around and call the schools, unquote, to report a case of physical child abuse.
See, it kind of escalated. The student might have thrown the F word at him.
Yeah.
A gay slur. And he is an African-American child, and he might have thrown one back at him.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if that, obviously that's awful.
And sometimes with some of our kids, for them to report that to their parents, I mean, for them it's a weakness thing. They'd rather just deal with it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want their parents involved because they might have parents that'll kick their ass for them,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what the teacher did. These days, he might have parents that say, hey, you deserve what you got for what you did. So this is not new. I mean, I've had teachers, physical altercations with kids, sexual altercations with kids, verbal altercations with kids, violating the professional standards rules in other ways that don't involve kids, and it's happens. I mean,
Siegferth seems to think that the physical, sexual, and verbal abuse of children falls under the category of blank happens.
Again, I don't know why it's been 2 weeks and nothing's happened.
We don't think the kid said anything.
Well, maybe for right now, it's best that we don't say anything. But again, his coming here talking about it creates a record,
right,
where we can say, look, the teacher was concerned about this when it happened. talked to us. Since there had been no report made, we didn't initiate any contact with you, and we weren't about to. That's if it comes up down the road.
Siegferth suggests acknowledging the physical abuse of the student before it's reported will cast the union member in a better light. He seems all too familiar with covering up these abuses instead of doing something about it.
We're not going to turn around as soon as they leave and call HR and say, hey, Joe Smith was just in here and he up some kid at the school and gave him a bloody nose. No, we don't do that.
It seems the Akron Education Association is not in the business of preventing or exposing child abuse. Next stop, Cleveland Heights. Meet Tom Schmida, former union president and now a consultant to the current president.
But basically, he had an altercation with the kid.
Physical?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Again, the journalist tells Schmida a story. His brother shoved a student. The student hit his head. It happened a few weeks back, and nothing has been reported.
Was the kid injured?
He had like a headache, you said?
Did he go to the nurse?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody knows at this point. As far as I can tell, the kid had a
Has
headache.
he talked to the kid since?
Yeah, I mean,
Has he apologized to the kid?
Has he apologized?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, that's probably a good
Should he
thing.
apologize or?
No, I think I think he carries on right now. That should have happened within a day or two.
Okay.
At this point now, the only concern would be that if he did apologize to the kid, it's an admission.
Right.
We don't want that right now.
So he also made like a racial slur a little bit.
Oh God, what did he say?
Well, like maybe the N-word.
Okay, let me tell you right out. If that came out,
Yeah.
and it got to, he'd be fired, or he
Okay.
could be moved for termination.
For using the N-word?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
In this district. Okay.
So we just
It's
gotta-
ours right now.
Mr. Schmida thinks saying the N-word is more likely to get the teacher fired than the assault. And again, the ubiquitous say nothing advice.
Well, I'm not. He does nothing. Talks to no one.
Okay.
He's not going to. Did anybody see it?
I don't think so. Sounds like no one was there.
Okay. Probably from my experience in representing members and all
Yeah.
that, I could probably lessen the damage around the push
Yeah.
than I could the other one.
You guys won't report it or anything, do you?
We don't report it, no.
I mean-
If it was child abuse,
Yeah.
we'd have to be a mandatory reporter,
Okay.
but we can't do it on hearsay. We would represent them the best we can.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I mean, I've represented people, we filed grievances, we protected their jobs.
Yeah.
We've also had to tell people you need to resign to protect
Right.
your,
I
just
mean-
so you're not fired.
Yeah. Better to resign than be fired, I
If he's
guess.
suspended without pay, terminated, no pay, nothing.
Yeah.
And
So
there's
can
a
I-
due process.
Is this a rare thing or can it happen?
Yeah. It's
happen to Florida?
fairly rare. I've had situations where, some of the accusations were trumped up.
Yeah. By the kid.
The kid said a teacher puts his arm on a kid and says,
Yeah.
"Oh, he hit me,"
Yeah, of course, right.
Just like, what's his name? The basketball court who always falls.
Yeah.
We also had a security monitor who was fired because he got angry and overreacted and pushed a kid.
Yeah.
Fired.
Right.
They don't have the security staff doesn't have the same protections as teachers.
The implication, Mr. Schmida is saying that because the brother is a teacher, he is more likely to get away with an assault of a student than someone who works in the security staff.
It sounds like just a situation got momentarily out of hand. The kid maybe feels responsible. Is it a good kid, bad kid?
I don't know. You didn't say.
By that I mean somebody who's constantly in trouble, getting sent to the office.
Would that make a difference if it was a bad kid?
It might, but not. It more so those kids that are constantly disciplined sometimes are the most likely to accuse a teacher.
Okay. So in my case, in my brother's case, if no one heard it and no one saw it and the kid didn't report it, it should be okay.
There's no report.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like
No, it hasn't happened.
somebody breaks in your house and steals your weed. You're not going to report. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, okay.
Again, the narrative repeats itself in union office after union office. Say nothing, do nothing, and you will get away with hitting a student. This is David Romick. He is the president of the Dayton Education Association. Our undercover journalist told him a story about her imaginary fiancé who injured a student.
We would provide him absolutely adequate defense. And in my 8 years in this position, I've never had somebody terminated for a situation like you're describing.
Okay. I shouldn't say this because this isn't good, but it is comforting to know that a situation like this has happened before and the teacher was protected.
Many times.
Many a time? Like how many times?
I'd say in cases of physical contact, I probably deal with this. Remember, we have a membership of over 1,000
Right.
in 30 schools. I deal with this probably 10 times a year.
Really?
So over my career in this position, 80 times.
Oh my goodness. And every time the teacher's been protected?
There may be some discipline. There may be a short-term suspension or a letter of reprimand or something.
Like a letter in the file?
Yeah,
Okay.
something along those lines.
But
I've never had a termination. But we're way down the road. As of right now, there isn't a case.
Once again, the union official is all about protecting the teacher, not the injured student. It was nearly a month ago when we began this series, and it's always about protecting the people from being exposed rather than addressing the underlying abuse that is actually happening, as evidenced by the Delaware whistleblower who came forward this week in reaction to what was happening there. There is more to come. There's always more to come. Stay tuned, and maybe we'll actually see some reforms as a result of this investigation.